Hey, it's Danny from ProjectManaverse.com, and in this video I'm going to talk about the 5 benefits of holding a project post-implementation review. So let's jump in. First of all, what is a post-implementation review? Well, the post-implementation review is held at the end of your project when pretty much everything is finished. And it's a meeting, forum, workshop where you get together with all your team members and all the key stakeholders that were on your project. And you look back on the project and you reflect on how things went. You think about, what did you guys do well? What did you not do so well? What kind of improvements could be made? And you really just discuss and debate how the project went and think about next steps and what you could do differently in the future. That's what a post-implementation review is. And unfortunately, it's sometimes seen as a bit of a pain. Like, no one really wants to do it. It's like, oh, we finished the project now. Can we just move on to our next project or our next piece of work? But I think that's doing it a disservice, and it shouldn't be seen as a tick box exercise. You should actually try and get some value out of it, and they are actually very valuable. So I'm going to talk about 5 benefits of the post-implementation review to hopefully give you some motivation to hold them yourself when you come to the end of your project. So number one, sorry, I'm looking at my wrong sheet list here. So it's very good for you as a project manager to get feedback on things that you did and how well you managed the project. And you need to come into this with an open mind and don't get defensive. Don't let your ego get in the way too much. Try and listen first of all with an open mind, but it's a gold mine of information and perspective of the team to be able to think about what you did on the project, how you ran it, and could you have done things differently? Because people may not have been happy with the way things were being done, or they may have had issues or impacts that you weren't even aware of, and they could have been caused by the way you were running the project. And even if it wasn't down to how you were running the project, maybe it was someone else on the project, some other team member was doing something that was impacting someone else or not done in the right way. At the end of the day, you're the project manager and the buck stops with you. So in your future projects, you need to think about, right, how can I ensure my resource doesn't do that in the future? Or if it was a BA, for example, a business analyst, just think about how could you ensure that on your next project, you're controlling that BA better to not do that thing. So even if it's not about you directly, you need to be aware of the issues that people have had with other team members or processes around the project that you need to try and influence in future projects, because you're the project manager and ultimately you are responsible for the delivery of the project and how it runs and how smoothly it goes. So that's benefit number 1. Benefit number 2 is it formalizes the project closure. And this is quite an important thing to achieve, because when you finish a project, at least in principle, because you've delivered the thing, you should be able to move on to your next project and carry on. But what often happens is that you can't really escape the old project. You can't escape the business area that you delivered the project to. And they're constantly asking you questions, and you're trying to move on to your next piece of work, but you're being pulled back and you're spending your time on the previous project when you should get that clean break. And what the post-implementation review does, it's almost like a psychological closure, because it reminds everyone, all those stakeholders, right, okay, we're at the end of the project now, we're looking back on what we've done, what we haven't done well. And in that session, you can make it clear that if there are things that need to be done in the future around that business area, around the thing that you have delivered, you're not going to be doing them because you're going to be off doing something else. It's now down to that business area that's accepted the thing that you've delivered, that has accepted the change. It's now down to them to implement things and make sure things run properly and the product is being used in the right way and by the right people. So it's a good way to just formally close down the project, and you can say in that session, right, just to remind everyone, the project is now closed. I'm going to be moving away onto my next project. So don't come knocking on my door, but say it in a nicer way, obviously. So that's benefit number 2. Benefit number 3 is it is very helpful for future projects. And this is something that us project managers are not very good at doing. But there are a wealth of post-implementation review documents out there, especially if your organization has been around for a while and you've had a change function that's been around for a while. You should be able to go to in some kind of document library and look at all the PIRs for previous projects, similar projects, and just read through them and see what challenges they had, see what they did well, see what they didn't do well, and try and take that learning and apply it to your project that might be of a similar nature. So they're very good for future projects. I don't know why we're not very good at doing that, but there's certainly plenty of PIRs available at our fingertips to read. Maybe it's just a time thing. We're always doing urgent stuff, and that's one of those important but not urgent things that we don't have time for. But if you can, make time to do that. And so if you do your own PIR, that could be valuable for another project manager in the future. Okay, benefit number 4 is that it can identify process improvements. So when I talked about the previous benefit of using the PIR for future projects, that's more about, I suppose, the issues and the time delays and the problems the project went through and trying to avoid those on future projects. But what you can also use the PIR for is to identify process improvements just around the mechanisms of delivering a project. It could be, for example, handoff between different teams in the landscape that you're working on. It could be something around the governance or sign-off process, something that's not strictly just related to the project you were doing, but is more about business processes that support the delivery of projects in general. And sometimes you can identify things to make that better. So that's benefit number 4. It allows you to identify process improvement. And again, the tricky thing is trying to find owners to make those processes or those process improvements, or sorry, to implement those process improvements and actually get some kind of ownership for it so someone can track it through. Because a great thing about having a project manager is you're there to make sure all these things happen. But once you've stepped away, you've got these list of actions to make the processes better. But that now should be down to the business areas or the BAU, business as usual departments. It's not really your responsibility. So if you are capturing these process improvement ideas, try and make sure there's some kind of means to take them forward and deliver them and manage them and track them through to completion. Okay, so that's benefit number 4. Benefit number 5, the last one. It's a great opportunity to celebrate success and say thank you to your team, because we often don't celebrate success because some of these projects are quite significant feats. They're very complex, they're very difficult. It's a real struggle to get them delivered. And once they're done, sometimes we can just move on to the next thing, but not actually take a step back and think, right, look at what we did here. We actually did a really challenging thing, so we should take a bit of time just to celebrate that and say well done to each other and go for a drink or whatever. But use the PIR as a positive event to celebrate the success of your delivery. And you as a project manager, this is your perfect chance to take the stage and say thank you to everyone in a bit more of a heartfelt way, not just by email saying well done for all your hard work. Sometimes those email messages don't feel particularly sincere, especially if you're not always saying thank you throughout the project individually to people and you mean it. It's just to send an email at the end of the project seems a bit insincere. So you want to be saying thank you throughout the entire project, of course, to people that deserve it and who are doing a good job. But in this PIR, in this face-to-face workshop, ideally, you can do your little speech, look people in the eye and say thank you for a job well done, and all together you can celebrate success. Okay, so hopefully that's convinced you of the benefits of doing a PIR. I do recommend it, and I'll leave it there. So until tomorrow, please take care. Oh, don't forget to hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more videos like this one, hit that subscribe button. And if you have any questions or you'd like to see any videos on any topics in particular, let me know in the comments and I will try to do those for you. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.